Episode 25 of the State of the Old Republic podcast was originally recorded on February 13th, 2017. It's the State of the Old Republic podcast. This week, the big CXP bonanza began. I'll share with you my experience and how I grinded my way from Tier 1 to Tier 3. Also this week, I'll talk about Game Update 5.1.2 and how it might help balance the CXP grind. Finally this week, now that I've cleared Tier 1 and Tier 2, I'm ready to share my thoughts on the whole RNG loot thing. And with that, it's time to make the jump to Lightspeed and check out the State of the Old Republic. Well, welcome to episode 25 of the State of the Old Republic podcast. I'm your host, Ted, and as you heard in the opening, I have another great show lined up for you today. As always, first up, let's review some announcements for the Old Republic. And just as a reminder that BioWare is continuing to accept applications to test Game Update 5.2 on the PTS. In fact, a wave of invitations went out this week. And no, I have not applied yet, although I may, if it looks like they're going to test out the story and the new daily area. And they did say that as long as testing was happening on the PTS, you could apply to get in. So, if you are interested, send an email to swotorsubmissions@swotor.com with the subject line Closed PTS Application. And then be sure to include the following information: your account name, the account of each op member / guild member you wish to bring into the test, and any notes on why you think you or your op group or guild should be accepted into the test. And one other announcement this week, I will not be doing a podcast the week of February the 28th. I'm headed off on another vacation, and given how much time I've been spending in game this past week, it certainly would be much needed. But at any rate, I won't be able to get one done before I leave, although I will have one on February the 21st. So that's all the announcements I have this week. Let's slice the hollow-nut and get to the news this week. And the big news for the week, of course, is that Game Update 5.1.1 went live and thus began the Grand CXP event, which, as it turned out, increased CXP gains by 350%. And if you recall, it was originally supposed to be 250%, but BioWare made a last-minute change. And here's what Eric Musco said about that on the forums. Hey folks, the math savvy among you are going to notice the current CXP boost in the game for the event is operating at 350% instead of 250% as we originally stated. Since the mission buffs are coming in 5.1.2, we decided to make the boost even larger until then. Since this was a last minute change, the in-game tooltip will state 250%, but the bonus is in fact 350%, and note that the XP and requisition are still 250%, and he said, get in there and enjoy your crazy CXP bonus. And by XP, he meant the boost, of course, to the normal leveling, which, by the way, not everyone is happy with that XP boost, and I'm not really sure I understand why. I mean, yes, you get to the level cap faster, but with the level sync, you can still do all of the quests and story and get rewarded. The leveling is fast on its own even without the boost, and the NPCs and quests aren't hard anymore even at level. I mean, there's practically zero difficulty now with leveling, so I don't get why getting to level 70 fast is a problem. But that said, if you're someone who doesn't like the increased leveling speed, there is good news coming for you in Game Update 5.1.2, and this is what Eric had to say about that on the forums. And he said, okay, so I can confirm that in 5.1.2 on February 28th, we will be reintroducing the vendor which sells the White Acute module. It will work slightly different than last time in that instead of only suppressing bonus story XP, it will suppress all XP earned up to 2.5 times to cancel out the event bonus. He said, also, we are working to bake it into the event so that in the future, anytime we run a bonus to XP, the vendor in module will be available as an option for those who don't want the bonus XP. And then he went on later to clarify that the White Acute module will no longer have a subscription requirement, so anyone can use it. So there you have it. If you don't like the leveling bonus, just hold off a couple weeks and you will be able to purchase a White Acute module and turn it off entirely. So on to the big Galactic Command CXP event. And so, well, how's it going, you might wonder? Well, I have some breaking news, everyone. I stopped playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, before you mourn and rejoice, let me clarify, I did not quit the game or unsubscribe, and this is not my final podcast. If anything, my time spent in a galaxy far, far away has increased. Due to the CXP bonanza that is the Galactic Command event, I no longer play the game as it's intended. I have reduced this great escape of a world into a singular mind-numbing activity, and that is running Chapter 2, A Dream of Empire in Master Mode over and over and over again. I can complete a run in under 10 minutes, and with the various CXP modifiers in place, each run is almost a full rank. In fact, unless you're already in Tier 3, it is a full rank, and I'll explain. So the event bonus right now grants a 350% increase to CXP. I also purchased the Legacy perk for an additional 10% boost, and I started using the new Cartel Market boost, which grants a 100% CXP boost, which is pretty awesome, by the way. So those alone ensure that I was earning around 4,793 CXP per run, which is 4,600 for the quest, 92 for the bonus quest inside the chapter, 92 for the final boss, and then 9 CXP for the one gold elite that you have to kill. And if you were to add in the DVL and daily bonus, the rewards would be even greater than that. Now, keep in mind that the new Cartel Market boost does not work past rank 180. So if you're on Tier 3, your gains were going to be about 1,000 CXP less than what I was getting up until that point, but that's still pretty darn good. And just to put this in perspective, when the CXP event began, I was rank 61. I am now rank 210 and climbing. I mean, it took a little over 50 days to complete the first 61 ranks and just 6 to complete the next, I don't know, I would say 180, however many it was. I listed 139 here, but then that was when I was back at rank 200. So it's about 140 levels or whatever. Anyway, the event is real and so is the grind. And I have altered my behavior to match the new rules of the game. And I didn't want to, but the opportunity to power through Galactic Command is just too good to pass up. And by strictly running A Dream of Empire, I know exactly how much CXP I will earn, how many times I have to do it, and how long it will take. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and for the first time in a while, it is not an oncoming train. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is it like to run one Master Mode chapter over and over again? It reminds me of an old college event I used to do called 60 Shot Night. And the goal here was simple. Just drink a 2-ounce shot of beer once a minute for 1 hour. Easy, right? Well, it certainly starts out easy. That first shot goes down nice and smooth, and you find yourself tapping your foot, waiting for the first minute to expire. Same for the second, third, maybe the fourth. Eventually, it starts to get a little harder, and the minutes tick away like seconds, and that tiny 2-ounce shot starts to feel like a full mug of beer. And about halfway through, you begin to doubt that you can actually do this. After all, if you think about it, you're attempting to drink 10, 12-ounce cans of beer in 1 hour. Well, the same is true for A Dream of Empire. 1 10-minute run for a command rank isn't that bad until you realize you need to do it hundreds of times over the course of many hours. By my calculations, it would take over 150 runs just to get from rank 181 to 300. Now, it's a far cry better than before, but as Eric Jorgen said about the lack of bureaucracy in the Republic, what we've gained in efficiency, we lost in soul. Now, you don't have to power through it like I am. The event lasts until April, so it's a marathon and it's not a sprint, but I'm just tired of it. And I just want to get it over with at this point, and this is an opportunity to get to the end, assuming they don't introduce more ranks, which is always a possibility. So, the event is good, and it's necessary. And in many ways, the gains we're getting now feels like what it should have been all along. But it's also unbalanced right now. And one of the problems is the amount of content that contributes to Galactic Command is so broad that it's just hard to balance. Think about it. There are 25 story chapters, and 23 of them are pretty inefficient for grinding CXP. Meanwhile, 2 of the chapters are utterly amazing. And of course, I'm talking about chapters 1 and 2 from Knights of the Fallen Empire. Now, they could take the time and nerf the outliers, but ultimately what needs to happen is they need to adjust the CXP such that it steers you towards running the content that they'd like to see us do. And I actually think Game Update 5.1.2, which is coming on February 28th, is going to attempt to do just that. And let me just recap here exactly what's going to be coming in 5.1.2 on February 28th. So 1, they will be rebalancing the CXP rewards you earn from operations. So boss kills will now award more CXP than they did previously. And they also said the operations weekly is going to have its CXP reward greatly increased. Obviously, then, and they said the justification for this is, the CXP rewards they felt were below where they'd like them to be, and they're just going to increase their CXP value from both gameplay and missions. The group binder, daily CXP rewards are being added. They don't exist now. Completing a daily group binder bonus will award you with a bonus CXP pack. And they said that they wanted to ensure that there were great CXP incentives to participate in group binder. And by making a CXP pack, it has the added bonus of being bind on a legacy. So you can even use that, and you could get one and give it to some of your other characters if you'd like. The completion missions for flashpoints, they're having their CXP values greatly increased as well. And they just felt that the CXP rewards for flashpoints were below where they wanted them to be. And so they've added a much larger CXP bonus for completing the respective missions. The Flashpoint and Uprising weekly missions are having their CXP rewards increased. And they said that their goal is to really encourage players to play multiple types of content for the best rewards. And they said they want to encourage playing a diverse set of content, not a singular activity, i.e., running a Dream of Empire over and over and over again, although you can always still do that if you prefer. Well, I don't prefer that. I prefer these changes, and I really wish that they had been able to fit those changes in with 5.1.1, but we're going to have to wait till 5.1.2. Also coming is the PvP daily and weekly missions will now reward a batch of unassembled components, and which will help those of you who PvP, because I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it was just too low. The number of unassembled components and everything you were getting from PvP, in my opinion, was just way too low. So this will help a little bit. So, I mean, all of these sound like pretty good changes, and which I think will hopefully round out the whole CXP event and steer players towards the actual game content and balance the system so that the focus is on just playing the game and letting CXP happen. To that end, Eric Musco also talked on the forums about what to expect in 5.2 when the CXP event ends, and this is what he had to say. He said, when the event ends in 5.2, we're going to also readjust the CXP rates at the same time. The intent is to buff CXP above what it was prior to the event. How high we buff it remains to be seen, but our intent is definitely that you get a crate faster than you did before 5.1.1. And they said once we get closer to 5.2, I should have more details on what the CXP gains will look like. So that's good news. And as I said, the way it exists in the event right now, to me, feels like what it ought to have been from the outset. So I don't know quite what they're going to do. I mean, I would expect it to be less than what it is now. I mean, I think the 350% increase that we're getting now is actually going to be lowered to the intended 250% increase once 5.1.2 goes live. And so just something to keep in mind, because as for myself, I fully intend on getting to rank 300 before February 28th. But because I just want to get it over and done with. So that's my plan. But I have to say, if the first 20 ranks of tier 3 are any indication, I'm going to be grinding out CXP for a long time, because the crates have not been kind to me thus far, which brings me now to my next topic, which is the RNG crates. So as I said, I'm now into tier 3, which means I've received all my reward crates for tier 1, as well as tier 2. And so I've had a chance to see this in action and just kind of get a sense. I know other people have been complaining about the RNG nature of the crates, and I've just been waiting till I've at least gotten a little further along and gotten a real taste of it before weighing in and deciding whether or not I think it's good or bad or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think the problem with the RNG crates reminds me a little bit of this experiment that was done with these cappuccino monkeys, and you may have heard of this. And what this was done in the lab, and they had 2 monkeys side by side, and they were given a simple task: hand a person a rock and get a reward. Now, the first time through, both monkeys were rewarded with a piece of cucumber. Not bad, right? I mean, after all, monkeys love cucumbers. And both monkeys were perfectly content with their delicious cucumber reward and were willing to continue trading rocks for cucumbers. They did the test again, only the second time, one monkey was given the piece of cucumber and the other was given a grape. A yummy, sweet, delicious grape. And if there's one thing that monkeys like better than cucumbers, it's grapes. Well, this did not go unnoticed by the first monkey. And they did this a third time, and the first monkey was given a piece of cucumber, and the second one a grape. Well, this time, the monkey that received the cucumber threw that piece of cucumber back at the person, and eventually refused to even hand over the rocks. And this is the problem with the tier crates. For the same effort, sometimes we get rewarded with cucumbers, and sometimes we get rewarded with grapes. And the more we get grapes, the more we want grapes, and the more we expect grapes. And unfortunately, the more it seems we get cucumbers. And the more we get cucumbers, the more we resent doing the work to get the crates. The monkey just had to hand over a rock for his reward, but our effort is more like that of Sisyphus. You know, that guy in Hades tasked with pushing the rock up the hill, and just as he gets it to the top, he loses his grip, and the rock rolls all the way back down to the bottom, and he has to start all over again. And that, I'm afraid, is us. And that, my friends, is the Galactic Command reward system, and that is why we hate it so much, right? We start at the end of the rank, and we push that rock up the hill, and then we get to the end of the rank, and then we open up that crate, and there's a freaking cucumber there. And then the rock falls down all the way to the bottom of the hill, and then we start working. We push it back up as we work on the next rank. Well, Eric Musko said that changes to crates are coming, but I don't think we'll see it before Game Update 5.2. Tier 1 was okay. Tier 2 was actually pretty good for me. I got most of what I needed, but Tier 3, the RNG has not been good. And like I said, now that I've been able to really sink my teeth into Galactic Command, the flaws with the RNG are a lot more apparent. So, I mean, overall, I think Galactic Command, it is getting better and progress is being made. And I don't know. I think I have to think that this system is just going to be one and done, and we aren't going to see any more of it after this expansion. But you never know, right? I mean, there are some very good things about it. There are some things that I actually like a lot about it, that whatever system they replace this with, if they replace it, they'll sort of keep. And one is this philosophy that anyone in the game can get access to the best gear in the game and all the guy, regardless of the activities that they do. I kind of like that. I think that's worked out pretty well. I like having the UI, the Galactic Command UI, and being able to queue up for various pieces of content from just one screen like that. It's very handy. It's just a nice quality of life thing. And I would, if it disappeared, it would be okay. It wouldn't be the end of the world, certainly, but I kind of like having it. I think it's pretty handy. So I like that too. So yeah, but I mean, other than that, I mean, loot crates have a time, if you will, a place in a game like this. But to me, there's they think that they should supplement the gearing system. They should not be the primary gearing system, right? I mean, if you were out doing something and you got a crate and you knew inside that crate there was a chance of getting something really cool, a really good piece of gear, whatever it was, that would be okay if you knew there was a more guaranteed way or a primary way where you would actually go about getting the gear. And I'll just say, hey, if you were on an ops team and you knew that you were going to go run the new operation, and by killing all the various bosses, that's how you would actually gear up your character, that would be fine. But if you had a weekly quest associated with it that maybe gave you a crate like this, and once a week you open up that crate and there was a chance to get something, one of the drops out of that operation, that would be okay, right? I don't think people would be too upset about that, because you really wouldn't expect to gear up from that manner. And if you got that one super awesome piece, you'd actually be pretty happy. Yeah, you'd be disappointed if you got junk or you didn't get the piece you wanted. But again, it's not going to prevent you from ever getting that piece, because you'd be running the operation the next week and maybe you'd get it off the boss. And that's really how you would look to get your toon geared up. So that's my thoughts on Galactic Command and the big CXP event that's going on. I was planning to continue my Knights of the Eternal Throne chapter by chapter deep dives. This week I was going to cover chapter 5, Ascension. But I want to hold off on that because I just want to rethink how I want to do this. I still want to cover the chapters. I think it's a fun thing to do. But I just haven't been too happy with the way I've been going about it previously. So I just want to put a little bit more thought into that and think of what I really want to present and what I want to kind of get out of that. So with that, like I said, the CXP event is going on, and as I mentioned earlier, I do want to get to rank 300 before February 28th in the next game update. So with that, let's go ahead and cue up the music, and that means only one thing. You've managed to survive another half hour listening to episode 25 of the State of the Old Republic podcast. I'm your host, Ted, and I thank you for tuning in. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and you can also listen to the show directly from the show site, which is sotorpodcast.com. There is an RSS feed where you can subscribe directly to the podcast, and if you have a question for the show, you can email me at sotorpodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet your questions to @sotorpodcast, and be sure to follow me on Twitter to get the latest information on the podcast, as well as see what I'm up to in game. And I usually follow people back, and I do like to interact with people. It's been kind of a fun few days, just chatting back and forth with various people in the community about Galactic Command and other things. So it's a good way to interact with me as well. So with that, look for episode 26 on February the 21st, 2017. And remember the Sith code, cake is a lie.